Hi guys. A couple of weeks ago, I posted a review of the first volume of Lawrence Durrell's Alexandria Quartet, and I think at one point in the video, I might have called it the Alexandria Trilogy. There's 4 books in it, so it's called a quartet or a tetralogy, but he calls it a quartet. I posted their first review, and this is a review of the second book in the quartet. It's called Balthazar, also by Lawrence Durrell. The abridged version of events will be tough to understand without a summary knowledge of what happened in the first volume called Justine, so please watch that review of Justine, which Durrell calls the sibling companion to Balthazar, for a fuller appreciation of both. And also, just as a warning, this review and a bit of the review of Justine gives away plot spoilers. So don't watch the rest of the video if you're really invested in wanting to find out what happens during the course of the novels. Balthazar continues the narrative started in the first volume, Justine, and this time we read of many of the events told there from another perspective, that of the psychiatrist Balthazar, who is helping the narrator sort of work through his problems that happened in that novel. But another problem is that Balthazar and his remembering of the events really sort of unceremoniously disrupts and complicates the occurrences in Justine, and certainly the narrator's understanding of those events. A few years after the first novel happens, the narrator, whose name we finally learn is Darley, has moved to an island with the child that Melissa has had with Nessim. Of course, Melissa died in the first novel. And while he's at the island, Balthazar takes a ship ride over to the island and drops off what he refers to as his interlinear, which is a literary retelling of the previous events, mostly in Justine, from his point of view. And Darley spends much of the novel, Balthazar, reading and meditating upon that interlinear. His account completely undermines Darley's understanding and tells him things like, Justine was really in love with someone else, a novelist by the name of Pursewarden, not in love with him, and was just using him as a decoy to cheat on her husband. And we read about Scobie, who I think I might have mentioned in the last review, who's a mutual friend of almost everyone in the book, including Clea, Justine, Melissa, and Darley, who was killed while dressed in drag, possibly while trying to pick up a trailer for a trick. He's a homosexual. In Balthazar, Durrell draws the reader to sort of the metafictional aspects of the story, the metafictional layers of the story, in at least 2 ways that I can see. His account completely reconfigures Darley's estimation of events, as I said in the previous volume, telling him that Justine really loved someone else. He also uses the, cipher of the novelist in a couple of different ways. Balthazar's interlinear almost serves to turn the entire story into a series of suspicious, suspect, but all equally likely Rashomon-like perspectives, without letting any single perspective be allowed to take the entire account for what is the truth. And Durrell uses Pursewarden, who's a novelist, as I said, as a kind of cipher to shed light on the plight of the novelist, or more broadly, the artist, and the artist's task. This ambiguity, which can at times seem heavy-handed, but I think is ultimately pulled off very well, seems to mirror much of what Durrell is really saying about love, and especially erotic relationships in general, that there are a series of shadows, lies, deceptions, and figments of our own fragile imagination. As with the first volume, the language is stunning, so just like with the first review, I'd like to end with a bit of what I'm talking about here. Those wonderful ambiguities and mysteries which so wholly constitute Alexandria and its residence for Durrell. This is from the last few pages. And I think it speaks to exactly what I was talking about, that sort of ambiguity and the sense of affirmation is the word that Durrell uses. I feel I want to sound a note of affirmation, though not in the specific terms of a philosophy or religion. It should have the curvature of an embrace, the wordlessness of a lover's code. It should convey some feeling that the word we live in is founded in something too simple to be over-described as cosmic law, but as easy to grasp, say, as an act of tenderness. Simple tenderness in the primal relation between animal and plant, rain and soil, seed and trees, man and God. A relationship so delicate that it is all too easily broken by the inquiring mind, and conscience in the French sense, which of course has its own rights and its own field of deployment. I'd like to think of my work as a cradle in which philosophy could rock itself to sleep, thumb in mouth. What do you say to this? After all, this is not simply what we most need in the world, but really what describes the state of pure process in it. Keep silent a while, and you feel a great comprehension of this act of tenderness, not power or glory, and certainly not mercy, that vulgarity of the Jewish mind which can only imagine man as crouching under the whip. No, for the sort of tenderness I mean is utterly merciless. Beautiful writing. Pretty much just as impressed with this as I was the first volume. I'm starting the third one tonight, and the fourth one just arrived by mail just a couple of hours ago. So I can't wait to get to these. Balthazar, Volume 2 of Lawrence Durrell's Alexandria Quartet.